Welcome to My Purpose Lifestyle, a podcast created to help you live your life with intention. Each podcast will stretch you and push you into your God-given purpose. We are a community where life happens for us, not where we allow life to happen to us.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Angel Dean, and for the purpose of my listeners, you are watching My Purpose Lifestyle, and I am here with a very, very special guest, Makini Smith of the H.E.A.L podcast. And what we're doing here is I have the honor of interviewing Makini today in regards to her healing journey, and I'm very excited about this. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, H.E.A.L podcast. Tell us about how H.E.A.L podcast came about. It was also called something else before that, so just walk us through that.
Yes, so in 2018, I started the Walk on My Stilettos podcast, and it was supposed to be an evolution from my first book, The Walk on My Stilettos, and I wanted to interview women that I felt were successful, women that inspired me, but I knew that they had a story of resilience that they had gone through, some serious adversities that they had overcome. And by year 4, I realized that the podcast had totally transitioned to speaking about people's healing journey. And because I had gone through a very heavy healing journey since I started the podcast, my obsession with understanding healing, with understanding trauma, with understanding how to, process a lot of the things that we've been through and providing tools and everything that I was learning, I felt it was necessary to change the name of the podcast and also the focus, because that's where conversations were going. So I changed it to the H.E.A.L podcast. H.E.A.L is abbreviated, so H-E-A.L. Honor, elevate, and love her. And thank you. And I feel like ever since I transitioned, even the feel of the show, all the feedback that I've been getting from listeners, from the people that I've been interviewing, when we're done, the recordings are like, wow, that felt like a therapy session.
Yeah.
Like, where can I make my offering? Where do I pay? The feedback, the impact that I get in my DMs from women saying like, wow, this episode, now I understand this family member better. Now I'm able to do this in my relationship better. Thank you for this. So it's been healing not only for me, but for the guests and for listeners.
Yeah, I can attest to that, because there's so many times like you've had people on there that we see them socially, we see them in their element in terms of whatever they do professionally, but that story that they have behind them, you would never know. Just like when we talk, which is why we're even doing this right now, because we had a moment where we had this bit of this therapy session. I'm like, honestly, I need to interview you. But there is so much depth to everybody, and it's really hard to get there with these real moments and these TikTok moments, and just being able to pull stories from people is what I get from listening to the H.E.A.L podcast, and allowing that space for people to normalize what we go through.
Yeah. So
thank you for that, and it has blessed me many times, because I'm like, whoa, she went through that. Well, okay, so I'm not alone. And yes, I have gotten answers in terms of what boundaries look like, what healing can look like, what you need to look out for in terms of different personality types and things you need to avoid as being a certain type of person. So yeah, all of that. So make sure you guys check out the H.E.A.L podcast. Every week you have another story, and she just said year 4, so it's been going on almost five years now.
No, so we hit 5 years in October.
5 years in October.
Yeah.
And think about it, every week somebody is coming on, so there's many stories out there. And if you have a story and you'd like to share, Hit your girl up.
Yep.
So here you are, you started this. Usually we start things because of a thing we've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
So you started this and you obviously have evolved
Mm-hmm.
in terms of your own healing process, in terms of how you go about dealing with the things that you go through in life. So what's one thing that you can pinpoint that you have done or that you're doing differently in terms of your healing process from when you started to now?
So from when I started the podcast?
Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten a lot clearer in my communication.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because as someone who is like normally severely introverted and doesn't like to be around a lot of people, doing this type of podcast, having deep conversations and having such thought-provoking conversations with people that I probably would have never been able to have conversations with. Having those deep conversations on a weekly basis and learning to ask questions from sheer curiosity and learning how similar people are. You know, I have conversations with multimillionaires and we have the same problems. You know, you have conversations with people that are running these billion-dollar companies and we have the same problems. So being able to feel comfortable in being transparent and realizing through communication that we are more alike than we are different has definitely helped me on an everyday basis, because there's almost no judgment when you are having a conversation with any human being on the planet now, because it's like, we've got some similarities in here somewhere.
Yeah.
We're all human.
Yeah. Wow. I can see that. And you said something, you're like having weekly conversations. Like, so you have therapy sessions pretty much for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
You've had therapy sessions, which obviously would change your perspective. So when you think about somewhere that the podcast has impacted you in terms of talking to these different people and seeing the similarities and also even having aha moments, where do you feel like it's impacted you the most in terms of issues in your life? So whether it be like, has it impacted you in your relationship the most, as a mother the most, as a partner the most?
I feel like it's impacted me in every area intensely. Maybe the confidence in my business.
Ooh.
Because I'm having conversations with people that have built multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar businesses. I'm having conversations with people who work with A-list celebrities. I'm having conversations with other therapists. I'm having conversations with entrepreneurs, TV personalities, the girl next door. And they're sharing their business journey, but how they had to develop personally in order to grow in their business. And I feel like a lot of their struggles, because whether it's social media or TV or whatever, you see someone and you admire where they are. But most times we don't know how they got there. We don't know where they came from. We don't know their struggle story. We don't know their origin story. We know very little about the depth of who they are. So on the podcast, having these people that we admire share that they were sexually abused as a child, share that they have infertility issues, share that they have a history with toxic relationships, share that they have mental health diagnoses, all of these things that you may not have known or you don't see on their social or on their TV appearances, but they were able to build these magnificent things. They took their pain, they took their struggle, they took their trauma, and they transmuted that into purpose.
I love that. And I'm actually in that same thought currently, where I'm looking at my own life and I'm looking at my struggles and I'm looking at all the setbacks and the hang-ups and all the things. We talk in depth, so you know all the things. And I'm thinking to myself, like, two thoughts come out of it. One, being penalized by other people that don't do the deep work. that don't understand what it takes to show up, even though it's a crap show in your circle, but you decide every day to get up and strive. You get up, dust yourself off. You don't have to look like what you're going through. So there's that aspect of it. And then there's the other aspect of just, doesn't matter what's going on around you, you can still show up.
Yes.
Right? So there's the social aspect of it, and then there's the internal obligation of it. And how beautiful it is when you just say, you know what? I still deserve to build that multi-million-dollar company. I still deserve to write the books. I still deserve to show up in spaces and be great. It doesn't matter what's going on. And people like what you do and the things that you showcase and how you help people walk their mentally walk through those things is so important because of how loud everything is. And the fact that you can still overcome, or you can still be successful even though you're on a healing journey. So I don't know if I'm rambling there, but it's just like
I totally understand what you're saying, and I feel like, and maybe it's because of my background with the mindset coaching, where understanding those things, where it's like we all have self-limiting beliefs. We all have stories that we're telling ourselves about what is possible and what is not possible. And I think the more that we do the deep work, the more that we do the inner work, and we start to open up to what is possible for us, especially if that's something that our families have never seen before, you know, we're breaking generational patterns, generational chains, generational curses, generational trauma. We're breaking those things. It's not easy. So anytime we're paving a new path, it's going to be difficult, it's going to feel difficult, and you're going to have people who love you, family, friends, coworkers, whatever, business partners, that they're used to the old version of you. But as you are evolving, you're dying with the old self and building the new one, right? So it's relearning. First you gotta unlearn the past stuff, but relearning the healthy things, relearning the healthy patterns, the things that allow us to thrive, which rebuilds the stories that we tell ourselves. The things that I once thought I didn't deserve or could never have, I now have. The things that, or even the people that I looked at from afar and thought, wow, like, look at that life. What I would do to just be in a room with that person. We're now good friends. Like, those things, it's opened up my perspective in what is possible, and realizing that everything that we need is already inside of us. It's for us to tap into that. It's for us to unlock that. So all of the, I'm going to call them, like, you know, viruses in our head, because our brains are like computers. So all the viruses that are in there, the doubt, the stress, the worry, all of those things that we allow to infiltrate our systems and make us believe that we are not worthy, that we can't have, that we don't deserve. It's reprogramming. Reprogramming the computer.
So when you talk about reprogramming, though, what are some of the obstacles that you encounter when you're trying to reprogram?
One of the first obstacles is ourselves, because the only limits in life are those that we impose on ourselves, and that's a quote from my former mentor, Bob Proctor. But it's like recreating this image of what you want your life to look like. We are first obstacle, because we continue to replay the old stories. We continue to tell ourselves those old things, or we hold on to something negative someone said to us in our childhood of what we can and cannot do. So getting over that and being able to push through that, it's not easy. It's consistency, it's perseverance, it's a lot of things that are required of us to be stronger and resilient and get back up in order to get to what we want. And then it's those around us that love us the most. And it's not that they are often intentionally trying to limit our growth, but again, the version of us that they know, that's the story that they have in their head of us. That's the perspective that they have of us. So as we change and evolve and birth this new version of us, they're like, well, who is that? Like, I know this version of you.
Right.
So the things that they say or their belief in who you are, what is possible for you, it's not necessarily from a place of, I don't think you can do this, or I don't think you should do this. It's from, well, this is the version of you that I know. Mm-hmm. And because I may not believe that this is possible, like, who are you doing this thing?
Yeah.
So it's up to us to do the thing and show them what is possible, but also in doing so, as we evolve, we attract who is meant to be around us. We attract who is in alignment with who we are. So if this version of us is over here, and we rebirth to this more evolved version of us over here, mm-hmm. the same people are not going to be in alignment with us all the time,
right.
unless they're doing their own growth, their own healing.
Right.
So you lose people unintentionally,
yeah.
but as you evolve and as you heal, your understanding of no longer being connected to this person, aligned with this person, or people being repelled by who you've become, it's normal to feel sensitive about that, because you're like, well, I love this person, I've known this person for how long, or these people for how long, we're connected to that loyalty or that length of time. But as we evolve, it's natural to shed things. When we have plants, we gotta groom the plant and shed things that it's hindering its growth.
Yeah.
So it's hard both for us to understand the process of our growth, and sometimes it's like, well, is all of this even worth the pain that I'm going through? Mm-hmm. So again, the stories that we continue to tell ourselves. So it requires, just like a shower every day, constant motivation. It requires constant affirmations, declarations, prayer, all of these things to keep going. Anyone who is successful will tell you how many times they want to quit on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. And, so one of the points that you brought up was just evolving from your loved ones. And I think that we could sit there mm-hmm. for a couple hours, especially if your evolution is now distancing you from your children's growth, mm-hmm. your husband, your spouse's growth, your partner's growth. That is one of, in my opinion and my experience, the biggest issue. Mm-hmm. Family members, extended family members, that hurts. Mm-hmm. That is a tough one. But when you are in a home and you're doing the deep work and you're showing up and you're doing the affirmations and you're writing the journals and you're listening to the podcasts and the books and the therapy and nobody else is, mm-hmm. baby,
they won't understand.
That right there is, I don't know,
So you have to be okay with them not understanding, because everyone's on their own journey and everyone goes at their own pace. And if you are, for example, the woman who's the head of the household, and you are on your deep work journey and you're doing the work, everything around you is going to change, because who you are is changing. So that will in turn change the energy in your home. It will change the environments you want to go into. It'll change your interactions with your loved ones. It's hard. Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side, it becomes hard for them, again, because their conditioning of who you are, what you've always done. Mm-hmm. So as you grow and as you set healthy boundaries, people will be upset with you. So you have to also be okay with that, because it's one thing if you're evolving and you are now distancing and creating new friend circles or business partners because you're evolving. There's less of an emotional connection. Mm-hmm. But when it's your family, when it's your spouse, when it's your kids, it's harder. I had to realize for the longest time as I was on my healing journey, I got excellent at creating boundaries with the outside world.
Oh yeah, she did.
My phone has been on Do Not Disturb for 4 years.
Yes.
I have gotten excellent with the outside world. Clients have to schedule a call. You can't just call me. As my friend. I'm not a phone person. So I've created boundaries with the outside world, and I've, according to my therapist, I've excelled at that. But I realized I had zero boundaries inside my house with my kids. Mm. And as someone who had been a single mom for so long, and then now I'm in a healthy relationship and I'm setting boundaries with my kids, they're like, what the heck is happening right now?
Yeah.
Who are you? What have you done with my mom?
So it's a total
is it your
crap
partner's
show
fault?
happening, yeah.
Is it your business's fault? Is it your therapist's fault? We're mad at everybody.
It's
right now.
somebody's fault,
Yeah.
but I don't like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Act out time.
Yes, absolutely. 1000%. That's where I'm at right now.
And so, because you have the Heal Her podcast, because of who you stand for, because of who Makini Smith is, you've shared something that maybe a lot of people don't know. Like, that was huge what you just said. Like, you have excelled at ensuring that you have created boundaries outside. Mm-hmm. You've created the walls. Well, what happens when the chaos is inside of the walls? Mm. What does that look like for you? What are you doing? What's the process?
Mm-hmm. So, because I had gotten so good at creating boundaries outside, I didn't realize that I needed those type of boundaries inside. Mm. And to me, it was like, well, these are my kids. I do whatever they need. I love them unconditionally. But there comes a point, whether it's your kids, whether it's something on the outside, where you have to realize that they're overstepping. Even if you haven't drawn out that boundary, they're overstepping a boundary. Yeah. They're taking advantage. Yeah. They're not appreciating what they have. Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah. I didn't realize how overwhelmed I was by the people that I love the most until I was like, what is going on? Like, I started to feel disconnected from everything, from business, from friends, from social, and I was like, what is happening with me? And when I came to the point where I was like, okay, I'm ready to go deeper in my healing journey. I had been doing all the things, but I was like, I'm ready now to go to the next level. Yeah. And I started seeing a new therapist and seeing her every week. And it got to the point where I started implementing such boundaries. I mean, they're healthy boundaries, but I started implementing such boundaries that my kids were like, we don't like a new therapist. You need a new therapist. I'm like, no, you don't like that I've started to pull back and take care of me and not allow you to walk all over me. Mm-hmm. That's what you don't like. But the accountability isn't there yet with my kids. They are seeing changes, they're seeing me implement changes, they're seeing changes within our household, and they're like, well, this is not the mom that spoils us. But at the same time, my kids are grown. They're not babies.
That part.
My eldest is about to turn 26. I have a 22-year-old that just had a baby, and I have a 17-year-old who is turning 18 just now. Yeah. They're adults. So my therapist is like, you've done your job as a mom.
What are we doing here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you've done your job as a mom, you've sacrificed yourself, and it's not appreciated. Now it's time to water you. So I'm in my watering me season, and that, to people on the outside, feels selfish.
Hey, I have a question for you. Are you looking for a community to grow with, to reach your goals, to become the best version of yourself? My Purpose Lifestyle community is your answer, your whole health answer. Here, you'll be provided with accountability for personal development, fitness, nutrition, and much more. It's a sense of belonging and a place where you know that you will be taken care of. The link is in the bio for you to join today.
Can I insert something here? Because many people will listen to this, and everybody always draws their own conclusion from things. And I'll even preface this even for our parents. When you're on a healing journey, when you have been being honest with what's going on, I'll honestly say this, for me personally. I know that my parents, my grandparents, everybody did what they knew how to do.
Right.
Unfortunately, because your toolkit wasn't equipped enough, this is where we run into some issues that we have, especially between mothers, whatever, parents and children, and all of that, right? Fine, that's one aspect. Like, there's different aspects and different levels to this. Is what I'm trying to get at. And for us, because we speak a lot, I'm not comparing how I deal with my children to how my mother and father dealt with me. Because I have different tools. I've been doing different things. And I've also been, I'm not saying that I can't speak for other people, but I know I've been working on myself. I can see where, for me and you as teen mothers, for my first 2 children, I grew with them. I made tons of mistakes. I've been honest, transparent, and even talked to them through it, right? So not saying that because I've done that now, it's all on you or my children to get over it, but I kind of am saying that as well.
They have to do something
because I can't change the past,
right?
But I can explain. I can point you into to the direction that you need to go. I can apologize. I can be open and transparent, and then I can also show you that I'm working on being a better person and changing. If you want to stay there, though, that's your choice, right? So, because a lot of people, they don't look at all of that that happens, that I know for myself and for my friends, I know that we do that deep work. And a lot of people will kind of be like, well, it's not the kid's fault because, and all this stuff. And I'm like, true, but I don't think you guys realize how transparent we are with our children, and how much we've walked them through our process, and how much we have been displaying what it takes in 2023 moving forward, because I'm not talking about 1995. I had a baby in 1995, right? I was a totally different, I was 16. You know what I mean? I'm 45 now, right? So, and even with that being said, I'm 45 with growth and with healing journeys and with a process and all of that. Again, me rambling. It's just, I just hate when people try to categorize things and throw it all into this cute saying or this cute thing without incorporating the work that people put into. Without giving context. And I know, like, so here you are, you're talking about your healing, and all this kind of stuff, and they were once spoiled, and all this kind of stuff, but there's a whole journey that they decided they didn't want to join in. They wanted to watch you do it and still benefit from it. And then, well, when you do the work, you're going to change. Things are going to change. And unfortunately, my love, as you sat there and you watched me eating your chips, well, now you're out of luck. Right? So now you got to catch up. I don't need to catch up. You need to catch up. Anyways.
No, 1000%. And to speak to your point of like even being going from teen moms to who we are now. Our kids, dependent on their age and where we were at the time, will get a different version of us. And I feel like I probably right now have the closest bond with my youngest because he's getting the best version of me.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, the older ones, they're not children anymore, right? And like you said, we are the type of parents where it's not like we're denying our past or the truth of what's happened in the past.
Talk to me about the things.
Exactly.
Let's go.
We acknowledge it. I've had conversations with my kids, and I've directly apologized for even me being in toxic relationships in the past that they've had to witness. For me not having healthy boundaries. For all of those things. So the apology is there, the acknowledgement is there, and now I'm doing the work.
So now what? Right?
It's up to them now to do their work. I had to learn from my therapist because I am that very hands-on mom, and people are like, oh, your kids are old, you should be independent, you should be able to do. No, not yet. My kids are very dependent, and I'm trying to make them more independent. But part of that is me doing the work and showing them what healthy boundaries look like. Showing them what it means for clear communication. Showing them that you do have to have uncomfortable conversations in order to have a healthy relationship. Showing them all of these things through example and hoping and praying that they will pick up some of that, because some things are taught, some things are caught, and then them wanting for themselves to do the work.
I agree with that. Do you think that a part of their not being able, like they're being codependent with you, do you think it was something that was your fault, or?
I hold a lot of accountability for my part in everything. Every experience is co-created.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Every experience is co-created. You and I are co-creating an experience right now.
Mm.
So with my kids, I will blatantly say, like, I created these entitled human beings right now.
Absolutely.
I did that. That wasn't my intention. But when I became a single mom and I wanted them to have what their two parent friends have, I didn't want them to feel any lack. So I overcompensated in a lot of areas that I didn't need to.
Mm.
And in doing so, they weren't able to learn what they needed to learn to appreciate certain things.
Mm.
So now I'm dealing with who they've become because of that.
Mm.
So I hold myself accountable for my contribution to that, and obviously as their parent who they live with, between the guidance that I provided for them and what they saw, there's a lot that they had to learn.
Yeah.
And now as they are older and they are now seeing this version of mom that is setting heavy boundaries,
Yeah.
that includes boundaries with them.
Yeah.
They're having a hard time understanding that.
Mm.
They're like, well, those rules shouldn't apply to us. We're your kids. Oh no.
They,
Oh, no.
they were created for you, actually.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like part of me even wanting to go to therapy was to make sure I wasn't insane for wanting the things that I wanted. For thinking like, okay, yes, I understand, even culturally, there's a lot of things that are quote unquote normal within our culture that are toxic, that are unhealthy. And because I didn't want that, a lot of people had an opinion as to who I am or who I think I am, or, I think I'm better than, or whatever. And then my kids started to make me feel like, well, you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't believe this, or you should. So going to therapy for me has been so helpful, so affirming that I'm not crazy, that my kids are a lot, that they are heavily dependent. But at the same time, I can also, instead of looking at all of the negatives, my therapist has helped me understand I have done so much.
Yeah.
I have done more than the average parent. Yeah. All the things that I once thought, oh, well, maybe I need to do more, maybe I haven't done enough. She's like, oh no, honey. You have sacrificed yourself for these kids for so long. Mm-hmm. You have been there. You have played mom. You have played their best friend. You have played their support system. You have played, like, all of the hats that I've had to wear mm-hmm. that I wasn't giving myself credit for. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, I'm being told, yes, you went above and beyond, but in doing so, you created some monsters.
And you know what? From one monster creator to another, I'll just say, well done. Because everybody has to do their own work. Yeah. We're not perfect. Yeah. We are trying every day to get up and do our best. Typically, yeah. That's most parents. Yeah. Preface. Like, some parents don't get up and try to do the best. Hey, that's another topic in another podcast. But we get up and we try our best. Mm-hmm. We're always, as a mother, I can only speak from a mother's perspective. Every day that I get up, even we were here and we're about to record and stuff, and it's like phone calls that are crazy. Like, every day we get up and we're trying to create an experience for our children that is a positive one. Mm-hmm. And you said something, it wasn't my intention, and my favorite saying is intentions don't always equate to impact.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, you still are responsible in creating what you want, right? Yeah. And learning what your boundaries are. And I'm speaking to children at this point. You still need to create those things. You still need to have communication skills. You still need to learn what makes you tick and what makes you talk. You need to be open and transparent about what it is so that we all can put this thing together. But when one person is putting things together and trying to accommodate everybody, and then when that person is like, I'm done, then everybody's like, now you messed up my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
Oh, now you're done. Right. Okay.
Because they're the victim, now they need someone to blame. So, like, what you said about, like, intention. You can have the greatest intentions in the world and still have a bad outcome.
Yeah.
You can do something out of love, out of the goodness of your heart, and it still not be received that way, right? We don't have control over that.
Right.
With everything that I experienced, with everything that I intentionally tried to do as a human being, as a woman, as a coach, as a mother, as a partner, as all of these things, it doesn't necessarily mean that the outcome is going to be what I would love it to be.
Exactly.
My kids, I will say, to me, they are the greatest blessing. Every single one of them, gifted, talented, smart, beautiful, like all of the amazing qualities. But because of the trauma that I endured, because of the experiences that they've also witnessed, they have their own healing to do.
Yeah.
I didn't intend to be in toxic relationships.
Yeah.
I didn't intend to have childhood traumas. I didn't intend for any of those things.
But it happened.
But it happened. And now I have children who are experiencing my trauma responses. So...
And you're unlearning them.
Exactly.
And it's like, which we really need to stop and think about, our trauma responses. I know for me, like growing up, it's always been trauma, and me dealing. And now that I'm unlearning it, now everybody's like, oh, well, you're, okay, God stuff, okay, like, bro, like, I wasn't the trauma, like, surprise, nice to meet you, I actually don't like that, you know, I like my quiet time and all that stuff, so it's like them relearning you. But at the same time, if we can have that understanding for one another, what a beautiful thing that you could create with one another, you know? But kids become manipulative.
They can, yes.
Or, you know, let's get off the kids, because these kids are going to feel like we're coming for them, but people in our lives that have been there from before and now seeing the now, they can become manipulative.
Yes, absolutely. And it's, when you're on your healing journey, not everyone's going to understand.
No.
Because when I started to distance myself from certain family members, I had extended family and, you know, other people in the family try to manipulate me into accepting toxic behavior because it's quote-unquote family. And I had learned, it took me a while, but I had learned, like, it doesn't matter what their title is. You have to look at the behavior. So I started addressing the behavior and not the title. And standing firm with my boundary, that I don't care who you are, I don't care what your title is, you could have gave birth to me, I don't care. Toxic behavior is not okay.
Not okay.
So now that I've shown that to my kids through their own lives, they are now sharing those lessons with their friends. Does it, like, I hear them on the phone, or they're telling a story about a friend. Well, I had to tell her it doesn't matter how long you've known that person, the toxic behavior is not okay. So it's like, yeah, okay, they're learning something. They're picking up something. And I had learned through my therapist, I was telling you earlier, an acronym FOG, F-O-G, fear, obligation, and guilt. Don't allow anyone to use those tactics to manipulate you into doing something. And once I started to set boundaries and keep certain family members at a distance, or choose not to interact with certain family members, there was a lot of fog directed my way.
Wow.
Fear, they're saying, well, you know, what if that person dies tomorrow, you know, or whatever. The obligation, oh, but that's your sibling, or that's your family, or that's your whatever. And then the whole guilt. Oh, but it's Christmas, how can you not? No. So part of my healing, again, it's uncomfortable, but part of my healing is now recognizing other toxic behavior. And when I see it, putting my foot down and remaining firm in my boundaries to not accept that.
Yeah, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so good. With the holiday season approaching us now, I can't tell you how many different angles of fog I'm getting in terms of who's feeling sentimental, who's feeling left out, who's feeling like, oh, I hope you don't have one of those great 2-second Instagram reel pictures and I'm not included this time. It's insane.
Yeah.
And I want to ask people, like, in the midst of us having or pinpointing that same exact situation, how many of us are guilty in terms of having that type of perspective and then putting it on somebody to also be a part of that? Oh, it's Christmas. The person abuses you 364 days a year. But the one day you need to put on a smile because what?
It's false and pretentious. It's not real. I think the more that I choose to honor me, the more it upsets other people.
Right.
The more that, so I've understood that the more that I study and understand myself, the more it helps me to understand other people and have compassion and empathy for them. But at the same time, it upsets people.
Yeah.
So it's so challenging. Other people, well, everyone projects their own insecurities. Sometimes it's unintentional, sometimes it's intentional. But as you are doing the work, you'll hear the comments. You'll hear them louder. You'll see the behavior. You'll notice the pattern. This on Facebook probably a year ago, or I don't know, I can't remember, but I said healed ears hear differently.
Ooh, I like that.
When you are stuck in your trauma, when you haven't done the work, when you are, you have these negative habits, everything that someone says is an offense. And because that version of that person is so focused on being victim, everything that they hear, they will internalize and personalize to themselves and think that it is about them.
Wow. I don't know how many people just came to my mind. Because I'm always like, I didn't say that.
Right.
What is wrong with you?
Right. So,
oh my gosh.
Their brain, the way that it processed those words, was internalized based on their perception, their trauma, their hurt, their environment, their memories, their world.
Wow.
Right? So they may not have actually heard the actual words that you said.
No, I'm always like, it's not about you. There's so many people that I'm like, it's not about you. I was just saying, like, it's not about you. And that clarifies. That's a good saying. Healed ears hear differently. Yeah. I love that.
What I feel like the more work that I do, I will quietly listen, not only to what someone says, how they say it, the context within it, the body language. It's almost like the unhealed version of me would have heard that and been like, well, what are they trying to say? Well, they don't think that I da-da-da-da. Now, you hear someone say something and you're like, oh, that says it says a lot more about where they are than where I am.
Yes.
So it's learning where to direct the energy.
And a lot of people, what I'm noticing, a lot of people's perspective is based out of fear. Even the toughest of the toughest people. There's a fear of losing something, fear of losing control, resources, significance. There's always some type of fear behind it. That has become super evident to me over the past couple of months. Or I'll just be talking to somebody about something and their perspective is so like irking to me, like nothing's gonna happen. Like, you know what I mean? Or if something does happen, there's always a way, but there's this fear-based, and just speaking with my husband, where he's more of the, and I'm more of the creative, person, and there's the fear of when you become that person that's always so serious and always so feeling like you're the one that has to hold everything together, you can almost turn your ears off of what's actually happening and create your own reality, and you stop hearing your loved ones. You stop hearing the demands, the needs, how to create a friendly, calm environment because you're just on all the time.
Because there's no emotional connection. You're physically doing things. Interesting enough, probably not the greatest example right now, but I remember years ago, there was a red table talk with H.E.A.L, Makini Smith, and her mom and her daughter, and they were talking about Will Smith and how he strived to provide. First, his focus was just to provide, to make sure they had the house and the vacations and all of the things. And his daughter had to humble him and was like, I don't care about these things. I want you. She wanted quality time with her father. She wanted his presence, but he was so focused on providing. So I feel like it's important, one, to understand how somebody needs to be loved. Very often, people will project onto you how they want to love you. And obviously you're not going to receive it that way because that's not your love language.
Nope. You're just like, sir.
Yes. So naturally as humans, we're wired for connection. But everyone connects differently. How our brain processes, it's different. So if one person is acting out of pure emotion, that's not good. That's one side. And the other person is like non-emotional and is just doing the actions, that's extreme on the other side. Right? So it's both, having emotion, having compassion and empathy and all those things, and doing the action. But if we look at someone else and try to understand from their perspective, not from ours, I think very often the reason why a lot of communication is messed up and broken down is because the words and information, people are trying to understand it from their own understanding and not trying to understand where that person is coming from. There was another acronym that I learned, LOVE, L-U-V. When someone's having a conversation with you, L is for listen. Too often, someone's talking to us and we're in our head going somewhere else, not paying attention or, whatever. Like, actually listen. Don't just hear. Listen to what that person is saying. You understand. Try to understand from their perspective. And then V, validate. Validate what they are saying before you go on and switch to your perspective of what it is that you're trying to say. Because you and I have had people that love us that because of their personality type, they're not hearing you. You're talking to them and you're probably having a deep moment of confession, telling them something about your pain. And because they're not listening with love, it's an immediate, well, I never, blah, blah, blah. It's not about you right now.
Something's always wrong with you. And you're like, huh?
They're invalidating your experience. They're not listening to you
at all.
Listen with love.
And along the same line of that is I always say people listen to speak, not to understand. You're always listening to, okay, that's what you're saying. Well, this is what I'm gonna say. It's like, sometimes if you really listen to somebody, you actually have nothing to say after that. Like, you need to be quiet. I've said this before. Whatever. I said this somewhere. It's like, sometimes somebody can, if you're really coming with a love ear, L-U-V ear, you have no rebuttal. Because you need to go think about that. And be able to properly respond to the person. We live in a world where we do not listen. And that's why, I just want to thank you too, because the podcast has enabled people to speak, enabled people to share I was sharing with you too, there was a time one day where I just took a step back that day and I just kept asking strangers, like, how are you? And the amount of conversations I had that day, because people want to be heard.
Yeah.
Nobody listens to anybody anymore. And it's sad. It really is sad. So I kind of want to jump into a little bit of the success with the podcast and just share with me maybe some highlight moments. What is your highlight moment? Anything you want to share about the podcast?
Highlight moment. I mean, in terms of like some success, I feel like when I started the podcast, being someone who is so introverted, I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't like the sound of my own voice. How am I going to do this? I don't want to talk. I'm not a talkative person, blah, blah, blah. I had the story that I was telling myself. And 2 years in, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break. And I took a break for a couple of weeks, and I was thinking to myself, is anybody really listening to this? How do I even know? And that's when I started really looking at the analytics. And there's like a website that, I guess it takes all the RSS feeds from all the podcasts that are active. And so 2 years in, that's when I found out that I was in the top 2% of the world of most popular podcasts. And I was like, how? My brain couldn't process it. I was like, I at the time, I was recording every episode in my bed, wrapped with my head tied on. Like, nobody could see me, no video. Half the time I wasn't well, I was going through health challenges. So I was like, oh, okay, so people are listening. I should continue. I'm doing something. So I continued. And then when I switched it, I think it was right before I switched it to the H.E.A.L podcast, but because of the direction of the conversations, then it went up to the top 1.5%. And I started paying more attention to global rankings, because I find here in Toronto there's a lot of I'm going to say superficial accolades, where it's like popularity contests and things like that. These award shows that are based on how many people you know that vote for you or things like that. Each their own. It's just,
I gave it a like.
to each their own, but I feel like I have evolved from that. If that's your thing, that's fine. If that's what your version of success is, that's fine, but it's not mine. It's not mine. So when I started paying attention to the actual numbers and global rankings and seeing that the show was ranking number 1 in this country and number 5 in this country, and I'm thinking, people listen to my podcast in China? Like, what? You know,
is there subtitles?
Like my mind was just blown of where my listeners were coming from.
Wow.
So to me, that spoke volumes to me, especially about the stories I was telling myself. I was like, oh, people actually do want to listen to me. People are actually hearing what I have to say. And then I feel like another part of the success for me has just been the feedback. The DMs that I get emotional when I get the messages about the podcast and how it's impacted someone's life. Because I feel like, again, you know, it was originally just like, oh, let me, you know, see if I can put a podcast out there and see if I can get some leads for my business. And then it switched to having such deep impact. And it helped with my healing journey. But I was like, oh, it's actually helping people. It's healing people. It's opening up conversations. It's creating safe spaces where people who maybe in their house listening to the podcast by themselves and they hear someone successful have the exact same story, and they're like leaving crying voice notes in my DMs on Instagram saying, like, those things make me cry. I feel like I had an aha moment a few years ago, and I was like, what was I put here to do? What is my purpose? I was put here to heal. I'm a healer. And when I first said that to myself, I was like, no, that's a bit audacious. And then I started to see the impact that the podcast was having. And I think part of my old paradigm, my old way of thinking, the old story that I'm telling myself about me being an introvert, me being shy, and me not wanting to hear my voice, all of those things have shifted where, yes, I'm still an introvert, I'm still shy, but I'm making such an impact that even if I never get a dime off of having conversations, it's healing me, it's healing the guests, it's healing because I'm listening. And because podcasts are long form content, so your engagement is not going to be like social media, where short form content, people are looking at a couple seconds, you may have high views or numbers. When someone starts a podcast, most people, I think they said the number was very low. It's like majority of people don't make it past 7 episodes or something,
Really?
Because they give up. It's a long-term thing. It's a marathon, but people will look at their starting numbers and think that no one's listening, or it's too hard, or any of those things. But if you look at your numbers, whether your numbers are 25 listeners, whether it's 100 listeners, whether it's 1,000 listeners, and you see that number consistently on episodes, think about those numbers as actual souls. Because they are. But it's so easy to look at a number and be dismissive and think that you're not doing enough, or you're not doing good enough. So it's like, there are thousands of people listening to the sound of my voice every week. There are thousands of people who return. There are thousands of people around the world that are tuning in to hear these conversations. I want to cry right now. Because it's like, I never thought that little girl who didn't have a voice would be here.
We're both like,
Don't cry.
woo, child.
Yeah.
I resonate with the healing. I resonate with the healing, and I believe that those of us that have been hurt so much, I believe that you do get to wear the healing badge. I believe that you have you have to give, you have healing to give, especially when you say to yourself and you're honest with yourself and you get up every day and you choose to trust God and you choose to see the good in everything and you choose to get up and heal yourself, that you become a healer for sure, hands down. So I don't even know, we're both trying to not. Woo, child.
Both our voices are clearing, our eyes are full of water. We can do this for ourselves.
I'm just going to, on that note, I just want to end this conversation, which I'm really, truly thankful for. This was just a conversation we were having maybe last week where she was checking in on me, and I was like, I don't even know. I don't even know. I'm here. I don't know. And then we started talking, and I was like, you know what? We should have a conversation and show everybody how much you have evolved, how much you're doing, how much you're impacting people, and give you your flowers. I'm giving you your flowers. I have an amazing friend. I have an amazing sister who is doing amazing things. And do not cry. Don't do it.
We're both empty.
No. It's crazy. I haven't really cried in a while. And I'm a crier, so I know definitely some work to do here. You don't want to get callous, but today you have kind of you've lubricated the back of my eyes today, and I'm like, honestly, I want to I call her Mac, but you're not allowed to call her Mac because she's not your friend. Mac, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, and continued success. And keep doing the thing so that I can keep doing the thing. Yes.
Amen.
Right? So until next time, guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share this with somebody out there that needs to hear this. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye. Thank you again for tuning into another episode of My Purpose Lifestyle. If you value the conversation and you like this conversation, I have an ask. I ask that you share this episode and any other episode that you feel will bring value to another human being, and that you comment, interact with this content, as well as download this podcast. This way we can help other people
grow into their God-given purpose. You can also screenshot and share on your socials. Be sure to tag me using my handle provided in the details. Until next time, remember to walk in purpose.